relax that you get to see some of it. I'm so sorry for taking so long. Okay.
Pandemonium. It's become pandemonium and I don't trust anything or anyone anymore. One day, one night, and the entire world I knew was turned on its head. Nothing makes sense anymore. I have to admit, I am drowning in it all, and I am a colonel. I dread to think what this is all doing to the men, but I can see it in their eyes, the way they move, the frantic looks they all give me. Holy Throne. I never thought I would say this, but I wish I had a regiment or two of Krieg here now. I never enjoyed fighting alongside those fanatics. Not a brain cell between them. Just zeal and an insane wish to sacrifice themselves at any damned opportunity. But the Emperor only knows how I could use that kind of steel now. On my own world. Or at least the world I thought was my own. But it isn't my world anymore. It's theirs. We are holding on by our fingertips, but that is it. We can't make any headway. Every time I think, surely, they can't want more. There can't be any more of them. And they arrive on the skyline. People I knew,
Terrifying. I
from
don't even
places
know
I
who
loved.
he's talking about, but
Hordes of them. We have been protecting the spaceport since it began. Protected as it is with a mountain at our backs, it is the perfect defensive location. Or so I thought. So its designers and builders thought. Now it is a death trap and I feel like a rat in a cage. I, an officer of the Emperor's own Astra Militarum, with over 4 decades of experience fighting across some of the most desolate hellscapes, across the most barbarous death worlds. I am out of ideas. On the very first night they seemed to arrive from nowhere, be connected to everyone. No institute, organization or unit was safe from their infiltration. I can only imagine that my unit was still pure due to having only just returned in the last week from our campaigns. We're awaiting reinforcements before being sent out to another war, another opportunity to serve the Imperium. We thought we would have a few months of R&R, well earned, I will state right now. That last engagement saw 40% casualties in my battle group, but we did it. We smashed the insurgents. But it was only days before this all started. Mere days. So, for a week or more we have been met with the same thing each morning, most nights. Hordes of them unending.
oh my god.
Despite our clear superiority in reaping them like wheat in a thresher. They keep coming. Barely armed, barely able to fight. Construction workers and civilians. They just charge our lines. No matter how many of them are cut down by our ordered fire. No matter the mounds of bodies that now litter the landscape before our walls. Still they come. I have seen orcs break before this level of slaughter. Seen Xenos who knew we would hunt them down and exterminate their entire races, fight with less fervor, less desperation, less sheer ignorance at how little they are actually doing to our positions. Still they come. But my men are on the verge of imploding. I know this. We have all the ammunition we could ever wish for, as our resupply was at the port, ready for us to take to the next campaign. Why don't we simply get into a ship and leave, you may ask? Why not? Well, it's very simple. 1, this is my home. 2, they, whatever they are, have control of the defense grid. The instant we take to high altitude, they will blow us out of the skies. I know this, as it is exactly what happened only 3 days ago. A fast ship, one
So what,
piloted
they're just
by
gonna
one of
wear
my
you
best,
down?
went up, but soon came down in a ball of flames. Musing over. I look at the auspex and see that they are coming again. Men, women, children. All our previous families, friends, neighbours. eyes glazed and faces twisted in rage. They simply charge our lines. I give the order and the firing begins again. Some of my troops are taking aim and then closing their eyes when they fire. They do not wish to see the moment their actions cut families apart. None of it makes any sense. Once, just once, I thought I saw something in our scopes. Just that once. A thing. It moved too fast for a human. It had multiple arms. And even at the range we are at, looking at it made me feel someone was tap dancing on my grave, like a shadow death to come. But death not only of me, but all humanity.
Oh, that's heavy.
I'd seen it fleetingly, but it was unmistakably Xenos. The things behind this travesty. They want access to the port. I know it. From here they can then expand across the stars, but they will have to get through us to do it. What the hell was that?
Does not sound good.
What the hell is happening?
Does not sound good.
It feels like rain, hail. Something is hitting the platform, something from above.
Sounds like
My screen dies as something hits the Auspex arrays. I am blind. I cannot contact my troops, cannot direct them. My entire staff are now agog and on the verge of panic. I must control the situation through action. Give them something to concentrate on. I walk to the hatch and take my pistol out. My guards nervously array themselves behind me. The entire staff look on.
Oh no. Are they dropping
the
bodies?
Hatch as the hail seems to speed up. I push the hatch open just enough to see, but close it again instantly. The sight would break my men. I know this because I have to control every instinct in me to stay calm.
Oh my
the
God.
training of the Scholar Progenium kicks in, but that is it. I control myself. But all of my training does not yield me any answer. What did I see? What is the hail? My eyes did not focus immediately, going from the dusk of the comms room to the dazzling glare of the outside. But when it did, I saw it. Red. Everything was red. The hail, the thumps. They are not boulders. They are not weapons. They are people.
I knew it.
It is raining. People. They have climbed the mountain behind us and are throwing themselves off. They are leaping to their deaths, just so they can attempt to land on our gun emplacements, our communications arrays, our lines. They are now burying our lines. I cannot now destroy the port from here with my headquarters cut off. We have only one option left. I salute my fine men and women, the brothers and sisters I have been told to lead, and I do so one more time. I show them the way. My pistol enters my mouth and I angle it up, so as to make it instant.
All right. So we got a little bit of an idea of what these Genestealers can do. Hurdy-gurdy. Cool. Yeah, Barkeep. I'm not completely following your commentary, but okay. Capable of condensing themselves into pure condensed lead. Let's see. And withstand the trauma temporarily, but not necessarily to be able to move past it. Wait, he just killed himself? Yeah. That's what it sounds like. It's like, nope, there's no way out of here. I'm outie. Other than death, right? Then, again, the whole death thing and the warp and all of that, all right, here we go.
I am Baldermort, and I wish to introduce you to the factions and forces of the Warhammer 40k universe. Today, we shall discover one of the oldest, yet newest, of the Warhammer factions, the Genestealer cults. For the Genestealer cults were an army that could be played in the early days of Warhammer, in that strange era known as the 20th century. But then they were discontinued. I shall not say that dreaded word, beginning with S, that I dub the vileness. Ooh. but only recently they have been returned to the Warhammer setting with a glorious new raft of figures and a deep and rich lore. Today, we will only be exploring the very briefest snippet to whet the palate, but know that in the future we shall explore this wonderful faction in more detail.
I love that he's like,
the most
just a
pertinent
snippet.
question is,
It's a
if they're a
27-minute
cult,
video.
as a Genestealer.
That's how much there is.
Well, I will be throwing up a few images and will continue to do so through this entry. But for the purposes of explanation, think of an alien from the films, and then add on 2 more arms and the ability to cut through any metal. And it has even more claws and teeth. In my mind, a Genestealer would make ribbons of the movie Alien in short order, but I'm sure there would be many a rebuttal in the comments section concentrating on their acidic blood.
Yeah.
I'm sure the discussions will be fun. Now, I wish to lean on existing wisdom to do the heavy lifting in this entry, as it is so new. I see no need to reinvent the wheel in this regard. To quote, "Worshippers of the Xenos. From the dark depths and shadowy streets emerged the Genestealer cultists, malformed figures united by a sinister worship of inscrutable starborn entities. Secretive, stealthy, and utterly malignant, they are the cankers growing unseen in the hidden spaces of the Imperium. Humanity is beset on all fronts by Xenos raiders and the nightmarish forces of chaos. Billions of lives are sacrificed upon the altar of war every day to keep the enemy at bay. Yet the most insidious threats to mankind's survival may already have seeped into the bloodstream of the Imperium. Embedded into the infrastructure of countless seemingly loyal worlds, the Genestealer cults bide their time, spreading tendrils of corruption through the native population until they are ready to begin their bloody insurrections. Once unleashed, they rise up in a surging tide, armed with stolen Imperial weaponry and crude industrial tools turned to horrific purposes. When the Imperium first encountered Genestealers upon the moons of Mgal, they thought them to be a unique species. In fact, as the Ordo Xenos discovered after a harrowing series of investigations, they are the vanguard organisms that the Tyranid High Fleet seed before them to create disunity and fear in their path. Resilient and possessed of razor-sharp claws that can carve through warplate, Genestealers are used in open battle by the High Fleet as shock troops. When infiltrating Imperial space, however, the Genestealers instead show their capacity for stealth and cunning, slinking and creeping, stalking and murdering in silence. Solitary Genestealers stow away on spacecraft and spread along space lanes like a virus. In theory, it only takes one Genestealer successfully slipping aboard a cargo freighter and reaching a populated world to spell the doom of an entire sector. There are legends in the Imperium of titanic space hulks, infested with tens of thousands of these creatures. Such a nest could bring utter catastrophe to swathes of the Imperium. Should a
So I still don't know that I'm like understanding this. So what my brain is creating is that it's almost like they spread an illness of corruption, disgust, all of the like the nastiness, and they do it almost like a virus or a disease. Is that right? Let me go over here and see what folks are saying. Yeah, Redeemer. Yeah, I'm not understanding either. Not yet, anyway. A snippet to you would be a 1 minute video, and the full video about 8 minutes, whereas it's 27 minutes. The full thing is probably 3 hours long. Yeah. Like I said, I'll watch videos that where there's information or things that I'm really curious that are longer than 10 minutes. But I definitely prefer videos that are 10 minutes or shorter. To be clear, so billions of lives are so casually thrown away. How many humans are there now? Quadrillions, quintillions, septillions. Yeah. I mean, and yeah, that's what I'm getting. That's what I understand too, Redeemer, is that there are a lot of humans, which is funny because humans just seem like the weakest faction of all of them. They just, yeah, I don't know. Here we go.
Genestealer reach a suitable world, its dark work begins in earnest. In the space of a few years, hundreds of civilians will have been abducted by the creature and infected with Tyranid genetic structures. In time, the infected give birth to vile hybrids of Xenos and human. Those descended from the first victims are unmistakably alien, with large domed heads and razor-sharp talons. As the corruption continues to spread, subsequent generations are born who can pass as human, and are able to blend in with the wider population, and even imperial organizations such as the Adeptus Arbites, the Munitorum, and the Astra Militarum.
So yeah,
as the cult's numbers grow, more specialized hybrids are created to serve the Genestealer, now worshipped as a patriarch. Maguses are psychically gifted individuals tainted by the patriarch's will, tasked with converting key targets within the planet's government and military leadership. The hybrid masses are organized and led by primuses, generals and ambush specialists responsible for coordinating the eventual uprising. Nexoses provide tactical support to their primuses' strategic plans, the command of detail and contingency second to none. Sanctuses act as assassins and locuses as bodyguards, even as clamovuses preach the word of the cult and foil enemy communications. Atalan jackals speed into battle upon dirt cycles and wolf squads, harry the enemy flanks, while pure-strain Genestealers and aberrant monstrosities, sometimes bolstered by the gene alchemists known as biophaguses, act as shock troops. Whether it takes a handful of months or many years, eventually the cult will go on the warpath. Only then will the Patriarch send a synaptic order to rise up and drown the planet in blood. When the creature's minions receive the psychic command to begin the insurrection, the hybrids arm themselves with purloined military gear and mining tools, and surge forth from their hidden lairs in mass tides. Guided by the cunning will of their war leaders, they strike first at key tactical locations like communication outposts, spaceports, and munition yards. Stripped of its defenses and ability to call for help, the planet is left ripe for conquest. In a frenzy of brutal violence, the cultist uprisings fall upon those enemies who pose the greatest threat to the cult's agenda. Bones are shattered by ear-bursting blasts from seismic cannons. Weaponized rock drills are thrust into vulnerable flesh in a horrifying eruption of gore, and mining charges are used as makeshift grenades.
Yeah, and it is interesting and no surprise that so much of the war that does go on is based in worship and theocracy and, the different religions of each faction. So, I guess not much has changed. Massive space bugs, and since they are called Genestealers, I assume they take DNA from other races in order to improve themselves. Okay. Most other setting humans are jack of all trades, the median in every stat, and the most stable as well. Despite being massive space bugs, they have a king instead of a queen. After this, you need to check out the story of ancient Rylanor, the Dreadnought. What I'm gonna watch next, what I want to watch next is the what are they called? I had to write it down. Sisters of Battle. See, I told you, my memory. Come on. The Dreadnought that wounded his demonic father with virus bomb. And Max, you're painting some Attilan jackals at the moment. In Warhammer, humans seem to be the race that have the fewest advantages and disadvantages. They aren't stupid. They are crazy overpowered. They have advanced tech. And they have to go through all the rigmarole of making sure everybody's subordinate. It's not just like a natural thing. Barkeep, gotcha. Redeemer. For sure. Oh, man. Okay.
The banners and sigils of the cult are unveiled at last. Standards and worm-formed totems held high by acolyte icon wards, whose presence inspires the broodkin to new heights of savage fervor. During the many long years of preparation for this moment, the cult will have stolen and sequestered many vehicles to aid it in its murderous campaign. Rugged Goliath trucks and rock grinders, a common sight to mines and manufactorums all across the Imperium, are turned to violent purpose. Mounted with a range of heavy armaments, Goliath trucks rush broods of acolytes to the front lines, carving a path across even the most rugged of terrain and releasing an unceasing hail of bullets to tear through enemy infantry. Rock grinders simply crash into the center of the foe's formations, reaping a hideous toll as their saw-toothed drill dozer blades grind screaming bodies into bloody paste. Should the threat of enemy armor emerge, the cult will respond by deploying stolen Lehman Russ tanks and Sentinel walkers piloted by neophyte hybrids who laid hidden in the ranks of human armies for decades. Utterly loyal to the Patriarch, they turn their guns on their former comrades without a second thought.
Yeah, so they basically
the psychological
infiltrate
impact of this sudden betrayal is
the
a
other
weapon
species,
unto
the other
itself.
Xenos and humans.
All too often, the stimulus for this uprising is the approach of a Tyranid biofleet, those the cult see as saviors from above. As the Hive Fleet vomits its swarms of warrior organisms into the stricken world's atmosphere, the cultists sing rapturous prayers to their deliverers. Even as the Tyranids exterminate and devour every source of biomass on the planet, still the cultists hold faith in their corrupted hearts that these voracious aliens will elevate the faithful, helping them to transcend their mortal weaknesses. Eagerly they await the blessed oneness of form and purpose they have been promised. For a while at least, the Tyranids and the Patriarch's brood fight as one, the hive mind's control ensuring that the cult is not preyed upon. Maguses hurl illusions that warp and tear at the minds of the enemy, turning them upon each other with sadistic pleasure. The Patriarch's generals marshal their forces with consummate skill.
So are they saying that they have that ability to do that with the Tyranids? I may not be understanding. Yeah, Redeemer. I don't plan on making it a fully a Warhammer stream, but I did want to dig into some other items today, just because I had been thinking about it since last night when we were watching some of the factions. And this was a faction, the Genestealer, that I didn't quite understand, and now I'm understanding why I didn't understand them, because I still don't really know that I am gripping their true power. I mean, infiltration, sneakiness, kind of like a spy. I can see that. And I'm thinking about the original story with all the people just like throwing themselves and how terrifying that is. And like, how much time does that take to evolve people or other beings into infiltration or an enemy? It feels like a generational thing, which seems really slow, especially in such a fast-moving world of war.
Spending their warriors' lives by the thousands to open a path for the Tyranid assault. In this final, exalted hour, the Patriarch himself enters the fray, and his faithful are sent into a zealous frenzy as their prophet rips the unworthy apart with razored claws and shredding fangs. As soon as the last of the defenders is overrun by this tide of chitin and scything talons and claws, the hive mind subsumes the Patriarch into its greater consciousness. It becomes merely another organism in the Tyranid swarm, the psychic brood mind that once united its cult severed in an instant. In an awful moment of realization, the cultists at last understand the fell truth. Those same creatures from beyond the stars that they once worshipped as gods are revealed as their doom incarnate. For to the Tyranids, all flesh is much the same. Pure-strain Genestealers propagate with a hideous alien fecundity, infecting generations of Imperial prey until the time is right to strike. Each new batch of offspring seems more human than the last as the Xenos germ seed is seemingly diluted. But within, the shape of the beast lurks unchanged. At the culmination of the curse's cycle, alien nightmares are born anew. As with all their void-born kind, The Genestealer is inhumanly patient, able to subsist on very little sustenance and to wait for decades if necessary before making its move.
Okay.
When a Genestealer reaches a world ripe for infection, it will immediately go into hiding, clambering into dark and forgotten spaces, and lurking unseen as it prepares to spread its influence. Once it is certain of being able to acquire victims while still remaining undetected, it will stalk the fringes of society in search of prey, emerging only on the blackest of nights to snatch away the unwary with its steel-hard muscular
but they're sneaky
limbs.
and quiet. So...
Those who fall prey to the Genestealer's silent ambushes are not torn apart for later consumption, as with most victims of the Tyranid race. Instead,
how would
they
you
are
play a
put in thrall
Genestealer on a
by
tabletop
hypnotic gaze. Selected victims are then impregnated with a portion of the creature's own genetic pattern, delivered under the skin via a ribbed tube called an ovipositor. This process is known in the cult as the Genestealer's kiss. Though it bestows a portion of the Xenos entity's strength and longevity, this implantation is as cold and uncaring as a blade in the back. The resultant parasitism alters the body until the Xenos taint runs throughout. It also alters the mind, forcing the victim to revere the Genestealer as a messianic figure, the idol of an obsessive new religion. Whenever a Genestealer implants a victim, it condemns their bloodline forever. Their hybrid offspring are grotesque and misshapen, creatures who are as varied in form as they are hideous to behold. Certain features are common, such as a bulbous craniums and snarling needle-toothed maws, a pair of extra limbs ending in viciously sharp claws, truncated tail spikes, and mottled purplish skin. These initial hybrids are known as the first generation. The Genestealer and its hybrids of the first generation will then hypnotize new victims, who join the cult and later sire young in their turn. This gives rise to the second generation. These new creatures are hunched and stooped, not in the manner of the old or infirm, but more like pressured springs that are ready to explode into sudden movement. These hybrids may have 5 or even 6 limbs, but their eyes and mouths are like those of their human parent, and they can make themselves understood in low Gothic. Though their minds are still so alien that they defy analysis, the second generation is sapient, even enough to understand its host society. Some are even put to work in the industrial subcultures of their kin. Their uncanny strength and resilience allowing them to use heavy mining tools and explosives with far more ease than a human operative. As each cycle passes, a new breeding stock is brought into the fold. The hybrid offspring evince fewer mutations. The third generation is typified by an upright stance. Though they appear human from a distance, on closer inspection they have heavily ridged heads, mauve to violet skin, and may hide a vestigial limb under their clothes. By the fourth generation, the scions of the cult can pass for human, inveigling themselves into positions of power to further their agenda.
They are in it for the
Leaders
long
of uncanny influence emerge within the hierarchy, psychic agents and charismatic demagogues whose rhetoric inflames the subculture further. Fourth generation cultists can breed true. They do not give birth to untainted humans, but instead to pure stream Genestealers, just as alien as the original progenitor. The parents of these fifth generation creatures see them not as the hideous, hissing changelings they truly are, but as soft-skinned infants, innocent and sweet. They do everything they can to protect them, even giving their own lives if necessary. By this point, the curse's hold is complete, and the brood cycle begins anew. The Genestealer at the heart of the cult, known as the Patriarch, has an inherent control over every one of these minions, no matter the generation. The Patriarch unites them with a subtle alteration to the psyche, a subconscious link known as the brood mind. It is this shared sentience that makes the cult so tight-knit and loyal, that gives them uncanny strength and speed in battle, and that seeks to undermine the spiritual sanctity of mankind.
Okay, so we are learning about the Genestealers here. I remember that. They play like an insurrectionist force. Like, think militant terrorists moving fast, bursting out from underground. They're interesting on tabletop. Okay. Yeah, I have a dealer in some of my own fermenting alcohol. This is reserved for whiskey and moonshine. All right, barkeep. Hi, what's up? I recently fought. Hey, King Air. I recently fought a Genestealer cult with my Marines and managed to squeak out a win. Whew. Yeah, it seems
Such cults
tough.
can thrive in the dark corners of the Imperium longer than any suspect. On those occasions when they rise up in open rebellion, they can capsize our planet's defenses in hours. The cultists of these grand insurgencies have spent their whole lives preparing for their day of final conquest. Generation after generation have been bred in secrecy, cycle after cycle, bearing nauseating fruit. The infected have spread the curse to others and to their children, who in turn have infected more. Like a living virus, they breed exponentially, their numbers swelling until the numbers of the underworld are strong enough to seize the entire host planet. Though the later generations of each cycle have the appearance of common men, inside they are Xenos through and through.
Wow.
Their allegiance is owed only to the organism that brought the Genestealer curse to their world, and the hybrids of their hidden kindred. Their patriarch, star-born and inhuman, squats at the center of a web of influence that expands until it covers the entire world.
So you could literally...
Every soul in the cult is obedient to this repulsive creature,
humankind, be working
and would
next
give
to
their
somebody
lives to
who
save him. Once the cult is fully
Xenos
mature,
in their blood.
It seeks to propagate once more. Its leaders carefully send selected pure strains on long journeys to locate new feeding grounds, there to begin the whole hellish process over again. End quote.
Yep.
End quote. So we see the horror that is the Genestealer cults. For it only takes one, yes, one Genestealer to land on a planet for it to be potentially lost, though it may take generations. Also, the re-emergence of the Genestealer cult army, along with a full Harlequin's Codex, shows a clear return from Games Workshop to a sublime state, actually acting like a company, and not an institution. Why do I say this? Well, there was a period when Games Workshop acted like an institution, answerable to none, mindful of none, cutting off from their community and basically bunkering. If you do not like it, do not play. A dark period indeed. But what does a company do? It makes its customers happy and wish to return to purchase their product again and again. The comparatively recent change in course has led them to gain in strength more than they may have dreamed. Now their websites and interaction are excellent. No, we will never always get what we want, but often now we do. The return of the Genestealer cult army is a very clear indicant that Games Workshop are now listening to their customers, their fans, as they always should have done, if they wish to be the center of our worlds, instead of them being the center of ours.
All right, so I take it the Genestealer had left games. Okay. Ooh. All right. I definitely have a much better idea of what the Genestealers are now, because I was left a little like, I don't know what you're talking about last night. And then there was one more Warhammer video that I wanted to explore. And that was the Sisters of Battle. And then, because of requests of some of our chatters, we'll move on to some other things and play around in some other videos. How's that sound?